In this video, we are going to learn about the exception handling in Apex using the try-catch block. First, let's try to understand what is an exception. Exception is nothing but an error which stops the execution of a code or functionality. So, we can say that exceptions are the runtime errors in programming. In Apex, there are quite a few exceptions. Some can be handled and some cannot be handled. The exceptions that are generated due to the governor limits cannot be handled, while the other exceptions that are generated by our code can be handled. Now, what is handling of an exception and why it is needed? Suppose that you are using your email client and while writing or sending an email, it stopped working. The screen is frozen and you are not able to do anything on the screen. You are also not sure whether the email was sent or not. Now, the only option that you seem to have is to close that window and restart it and hope that the email that you had typed with the efforts is saved into the draft. This kind of experience sounds annoying, right? This is exactly what is called as an unhandled exception, where the application's execution is halted abruptly without showing that what has gone wrong to the user. In other case, what if the email client showed you an error message saying that something has gone wrong? The email that you tried to send is not sent. Please restart the application. Do not worry about your email as it is saved in the drafts folder. This seems a better user experience, right? This is exactly what is called as the handled exception, which means even if the program is terminating its execution abruptly, it is still handling the exception gracefully while showing some useful information to the user so that the user knows what went wrong and what are the next steps. Now, let's try to understand how can we do the exception handling in Apex. In Apex, we have the try-catch blocks. As you can see the syntax on the screen, inside the try block, which is enclosed in an opening and closing curly brace, we need to add the code which we expect to generate or throw a runtime exception. The generation of exception is called as throw of exception in programming. So to say in that terminology, the try block contains the code which we expect to throw an exception or multiple exceptions. The try block is followed by the catch block, which has an opening and closing brackets associated to it. These brackets define the type of exception that this particular catch block can handle. Please note that we can have only one try block, but it can be followed by multiple catch blocks. Inside the catch block, we can write the code to display the necessary error messages to the user. Alternatively, we can add the finally block after the last catch block of the try-catch structure. In this block, we can write the code which we want the Apex to execute irrespective of whether an exception was thrown or not. Let's try to understand this with an example. For the sake of demonstration, we will create a class named Exception Handling Demo. In this class, we will add a public static method doDivide. This method will do the division of the two numbers that are passed to this method as parameters and return the result. Now, whenever we call this method through the execute anonymous Apex window while passing 5 and 2 as parameters, we can see that the code executes successfully. However, when we try passing 5 and 0 as parameters, it throws an exception and you see it stopped the execution right at the line of code where the exception was thrown, and then the rest of the lines of code were not executed. Now let's try adding the try-catch block to the doDivide method. You can see that the try block now contains the code statement which caused exception earlier. The try block is followed by the catch block where we are printing the error message in the Apex logs using the system.debug statement. At the end, we also have added the finally block to return the result to the calling method. Now let's try executing this code with the same values that we passed earlier. You will notice that this time the execution of the code did not stop where the exception was thrown. Instead, it executed the catch block and then executed the finally block as well. Also, note that the finally block got executed in both the executions, that is, when the exception was not thrown and when the exception was thrown.
If you like this video, please do like and share. If you want to receive more of such informative content, please hit the subscribe button. If you want us to make content related to any Salesforce or Salesforce related topic, please do let us know through comments.